The Fieseler Fi 103R, codenamed Reichenberg, was a late World War II German manned version of the V-1 flying bomb, more correctly known as the Fieseler Fi 103, produced for attacks in which the pilot was likely to be killed, as actually intended, for use of the Imperial Japanese Naval Air Service's OA rocket-powered kamikaze suicide anti-ship missile, or at best to parachute down at the attack site, which were to be carried out by the Leonidas Squadron, V Group of the Luftwaffe's Kampfgeschwader 200. History. Background. The Leonidas Squadron, part of KG 200, had been set up as a suicide squadron. Volunteers were required to sign a declaration which said, "I hereby voluntarily apply to be enrolled in the suicide group as part of a human glider bomb. I fully understand that employment in this capacity will entail my own death." Initially, both the Messerschmitt Me 328 and the Fieseler Fi 103, better known as the V-1 flying bomb, were considered as suitable aircraft, but the Fi 103 was passed over in favor of the Me 328 equipped with a 900 kg, 2,000 pounds, bomb. However, problems were experienced in converting the Me 328 and Heinrich Himmler wanted to cancel the project. Otto Skorzeny, who had been investigating the possibility of using man-torpedoes against Allied shipping, was briefed by Hitler to revive the project, and he contacted famous test pilot Hanne Reich. The Fi 103 was reappraised, and since it seemed to offer the pilot a slim chance of surviving, it was adopted for the project. The project was given the code name Reichenberg after the capital of the former Czechoslovakian territory Reichsgasudatenland, present-day Liberec, while the aircraft themselves were referred to as Reichenberg Gerät, Reichenberg apparatus. Dfs Development. In the summer of 1944, the Dfs, German Research Institute for Sailplane Flight, at Ring took on the task of developing a manned version of the Fi 103, and an example was made ready for testing within days and a production line was established at Dannenberg. The V-1 was transformed into the Reichenberg by adding a small, cramped cockpit at the point of the fuselage that was immediately ahead of the pulse jet's intake, where the standard V-1's compressed air cylinders were fitted. The cockpit had basic flight instruments and a plywood bucket seat. The single-piece canopy incorporated an armored front panel and opened to the side to allow entry. The two displaced compressed air cylinders were replaced by a single one, fitted in the rear in the space which normally accommodated the V-1's autopilot. The wings were fitted with hardened edges to cut the cables of barrage balloons. The broader chord forward support pylon for the Argus pulse jet, by coincidence, resembles the same airframe component used on the American clone of the unmanned V-1, the Republic Ford JB-2 Loon. It was proposed that a He-111 bomber would carry either one or two Reichenbergs beneath its wings, releasing them close to the target. The pilots would then steer their aircraft towards the target, jettisoning the cockpit canopy shortly before impact and bailing out. It was estimated that the chances of a pilot surviving such a bailout were less than 1% due to the proximity of the pulse jet's intake to the cockpit. Variants. There were 5 variants. By October 1944, about 175 RIVs were ready for action. RI, the basic single-seat unpowered glider. R2 had a second cockpit fitted where the warhead would normally be. Unpowered glider. R3, a two-seater, powered with a pulse jet. R4, the standard powered operational model. RV powered trainer for the He-162, shorter nose. Operational history. Training. Volunteers trained in ordinary gliders to give them the feel of unpowered flight, then progressed to special gliders with shortened wings which could dive at speeds of up to 300 km per hour, 190 miles per hour. After this, they progressed to the dual-control R2. Training began on the RI and R2, and although landing them on a skid was difficult, the aircraft handled well, and it was anticipated that the Leonidas Squadron would soon be using the machines. Albert Speer wrote to Hitler on July 28, 1944 to say that he opposed wasting the men and machines on the Allies in France and suggested it would be better to deploy them against Russian power stations. Test flights. The first real flight was performed in September 1944 at the Erprobungsstelle Reiklen, the Reichenberg being dropped from a He-111. However, it subsequently crashed after the pilot lost control when he accidentally jettisoned the canopy. A second flight the next day also ended in a crash, and subsequent test flights were carried out by test pilots Heinz Kensche and Hanna Reich. Reich herself experienced several crashes from which she survived unscathed. On November 5, 1944, during the second test flight of the R-3, a wing fell off due to vibrations and Heinz Kensche managed to parachute to safety, albeit with some difficulty due to the cramped cockpit. Cancellation. When Werner Baumbach assumed command of KG-200 in October 1944, he shelved the Reichenberg in favor of the Mistel project. He and Speer eventually met with Hitler on March 15, 1945 and managed to convince him that suicide missions were not part of the German warrior tradition, and later that day Baumbach ordered the Reichenberg unit to be disbanded. Aircraft on display. Flying Heritage Collection, Everett, Washington. Canadian War Museum, under restoration 2009. Lashenden Air Warfare Museum, Headcorn, Kent, restored n-degree 85. La Coupole, Saint-Omer, France, restored n-degree 126. Schweizerisches Militärmuseum Vollruhenthal, Switzerland, restored n-degree 27. Stinson Airfield, San Antonio, TX, United States, replica. National Military Museum, Soesterberg, Netherlands, in storage. Specifications, Phi 103R4. General characteristics. Crew, 1. Capacity, 1 pilot and warhead. Length, 8 m, 26.24 feet. Wingspan, 5.72 m, 18.76 feet. Height, approximately 2 meter, 6.5 feet. Loaded weight, 2,250 kilograms, 4,960 pounds. Power plant, 1 times Argus S014 pulse jet, 350 kgf, 770 lbf. Performance. Maximum speed, 800 km per hour, 500 miles per hour, in diving flight. Cruise speed, 650 km per hour, 400 miles per hour. Range, 330 km, 205 miles. Role manned missile. National origin Nazi Germany. Manufacturer Fieseler. Primary user Luftwaffe. Number built C.175.
Please subscribe and thanks for watching.